Okay, I think we are now live.
All right. So, hello everyone. Welcome to our webinar event, which is Crack the Cloud Code. So, in this webinar, we're trying to demystify the cloud, the AWS, the certification pathways, etc. And we're going to hear from the best of the best. So we're going to start with the CEO of Logicata, Karl Robinson. How are you, Karl?
I'm very good. Tangara, how are you doing today?
I'm doing well. And secondly, we're going to hear also from Jean, lead architect in Logicata, if I'm right, no?
I think no, lead cloud engineer. Is lead architect a promotion? I don't know. I think I'm calling that a promotion.
I think I'm doing the same mistake Karl did the last time.
Yeah, no worries.
Yeah, exactly. And finally, from our AWS community builder, actually, in fact, all of our guests are AWS community builders. From Czarina, which is she's head of technical of architecting at Accenture, if I'm right. Yeah. How are you, Czarina?
I'm good, thank you. Doing really good. Yeah, head of technical architecture at UK Secure Transformation Services, which is Accenture. Thank you.
Yeah. So as we have discussed through some forums, we have all of our students are actually trying to get more information about AWS, about how to certify, how to which paths to use, especially at TechUp University, as I have mentioned in the Google Forms for our students. We have 4 majors, which are software engineering, data science and AI, cybersecurity, and finally web and mobile development. So the major problem in practically all universities, many want to learn cloud, and especially AWS, but they don't have any clue how to which pathway to pursue in order to achieve their career role. So this event is actually trying to demystify this for our students in all of Tunisia and all the community. So it would be a good opportunity for everyone to get in the right path. So basically, in this webinar, we're trying to make the most out of these guests. So first, we are going to try to ask Karl about how AWS certifications actually made, let's say, they were beneficial to actually build something like Logicata. Logicata is actually an AWS news podcast platform. So if you ever want to get the latest news about AWS, I highly recommend Logicata and Logicata's podcast. So I will hand the word to you, Karl.
Thanks, Aymen. It looks like you're wearing our T-shirt as well, if I'm not
wrong.
Yeah,
Exactly.
Yeah, that's Logicata T-shirt. So we even have those stickers on our microphones, but I'm not using my podcast microphone today. But there we go.
Yeah.
They got the logo, so it's nice to see you.
It has to match the glasses, yeah.
Yeah, nice to see you representing the brand there, Aymen. So before, I actually started getting AWS certified before Logicata. So my career has always been in the tech and IT space, although I'm not really a technical guy. So I'm not an engineer, I'm not an architect. I'm more of a commercial guy and an entrepreneur, really. So, I'm 51 years old. I've been in IT since I was about 24, I think, in various commercial roles, sales, marketing, and building other businesses. And for me, getting AWS certified was a great way to learn, and pick up knowledge and actually get hands-on with AWS, because there's a lot of labs, etc., involved in that learning process before you actually sit and take the certification. So before Logicata, I found myself in another cloud systems integrator called CloudReach, which was a very big UK-based systems integrator, which got acquired several times and is now part of Atos, which is a global systems integrator, competing more with the likes of Accenture, where Czarina works. But I had no, although I had at least, 15, 20 years worth of IT experience behind me, I had no public cloud experience. And I knew that that was where I wanted to play next, because obviously that was the way the market was going. So for me, it was a real opportunity to pick up some skills quickly, apply the technical knowledge that I already had from my career in various IT roles, and learn, how to apply that knowledge to the AWS space. So to learn the terminology, a lot of the technology, the underlying technology is the same as things I've been dealing with before. So prior to working in CloudReach, I built a business based around VMware-based hosting. So I knew everything that there was to know about VMware at the time, because that was what I needed to concern myself with. So, virtual machines, virtual networking, virtual storage, and so on and so forth. And, a lot of all of that, if you've got a baseline level of technology, a baseline level of knowledge in the technology underneath, it's easier to then start picking up things like AWS or Azure or GCP, because a lot of it is the same thing under the hood. It's just different terminology for it. So I started out, studying AWS when I was at CloudReach. Never really thought, because I was not a technical person, I could get a certification, but I did my cloud practitioner, and I thought, well, that wasn't too bad. Maybe I should go on and do the solutions architect associate. So I did both of those while I was at CloudReach. It was a great way for me to get hands-on with AWS and adapt the knowledge that I picked up over my career into the AWS space. Fast forward a little bit, as you mentioned, Logicata is almost a 6-year-old business. It will be 6 years old in September. Because I decided that public cloud was where I wanted to play, I decided to set up a pure play AWS partner. So Logicata is a consulting and managed service provider specializing in small and medium businesses. And we basically help them to adopt and operate their AWS workloads. And I'm not sure how many of your students will know this, but in order to be an AWS partner, you have to have certified individuals. So in order to qualify for the AWS partner program and all the benefits that brings, part of the qualification criteria to be in that program is you must have a certain number of certified individuals. So I started, refreshing my certifications and looking at other certifications as well. And that was when I decided to look at the Solutions Architect Professional, which is the highest level of certification that I personally hold right now. And the main driver for me going for that particular certification was we needed to have it as a business in order to level up to the next partnership level with AWS, which brings us more benefits in terms of, marketing development funds and so on and so forth from AWS. So that's kind of my journey, really, in my career, which I know will be very different to both John's and Czarina's. But as I say, my current business, Logicata, needs me and other people in it to have certifications to maintain and grow our status as an AWS partner. So it's actually potentially a tip for your students as well, that if you are looking for careers and you have got certifications, those certifications are more valuable to an AWS partner than they are to other businesses. So what we tend to see in businesses that are not AWS partners, but that are AWS customers, you've got guys who are highly experienced, highly capable in, operating and building environments on AWS, but they don't bother getting certified because their employer does not need those certifications. Okay, it's a way of demonstrating your capability, but if you've demonstrated your capability through experience and just doing the job, then you don't actually need that proof. But in an AWS partner, you do. So that's a good place for you potentially to target your careers, is to go and look at AWS partners who will value your certifications.
Exactly. So for all the students, actually having or being certified is the first step, the first milestone to achieving your dream roles. And as Karl said, it has to go with the hands-on, with the experience, the necessary experience to get as much of the real life scenarios to actually master this tool, master the be an expert in the cloud industry. And actually, we have mentioned talking about the hands-on. We're going to actually go to both of the industry guests here, which is Czarina and John. I think it's actually underrated that having less experience on par with the certifications. So sometimes we have many students and many graduates and even undergraduates that have certifications, but they lack the actual hands-on experience that matches that certification. So I think that you would actually see a concrete real life situations where you have to be matched with someone that needs more hands-on. But to have that actual experience, you need to have the appropriate environment. So let's start first with Czarina. What's your insight or your let's say your insight this situation?
Yeah, of course. Just to tell you a little bit about my background. So I've come from an on-prem, old school service that were physically present, and then also an information assurance background before transitioning to a different aspect of architecture, which I'm now in. One of the things I started noticing was that, there was a very much of a difference between companies who were adopting cloud. So one of the pathways that I went through, which was going through the AWS Academy to look at retraining. So I know we've spoken in the past about how your training is linked with the Academy, so it's great to see that in place. But when I was at the Academy, so this was whilst working, studying towards certifications, one of the things that I noticed was that there was a very small percentage of people who had IT experience. A lot of people were looking at the certification route in order to, elevate their experience, to make them a differentiator if they've come from universities on their CV, because it's one of those things that having both the certifications is a really good differentiator, but also to look at what personal projects that you can showcase along the way. So myself, just to make you aware, I hold AWS CCP and also cleared the AWS Solutions Architect Associate exam. But one thing I find is that those personal projects, especially on a CV for people who don't necessarily have the work experience inside it, shows that you've got a really keen interest from there. Everyone in the audience is university students, isn't it? And having that certification is really useful as well. I think there's a fun, what I call the Cloud Resume Challenge, where you can apply and put your CV. Obviously, redact certain information, make sure that you only give it out with the right permissions and login inside there. But that allows people to showcase the work that they've done inside that. In general, one of the other things that's really great, you've mentioned that you use AWS Educate as a platform for labs, and getting hands-on as well as that certification experience is really, really important. But I think it's a really unique proposition to have people with university experience as well as these vendor certifications, because it shows that you're really interested in that set area and set domain. I'll do another link inside the chat as well, which is where, in addition to the platforms that you've got, AWS workshops. And inside there, you can have a look and you can look at different projects that you can look at creating. you have different levels, but if you've got a keen interest in a certain area, such as AI or machine learning, there's different environments and things that you can look at, as well as making sure that you look at some other great sandbox environments like SageMaker. Is it SageMaker Studio Labs? That's
Yes.
That's a really good one, because that means that you're doing that inside a sandbox environment and you're not necessarily going to incur any costs. But yeah, training and certification, that tends to be the area that I work in. I lead a mid-level junior architect team. And for a lot of people, working together, group learning and forming those communities can really help and add value. I myself, I like to do that when I study towards different exams, to hold myself accountable and to talk through different concepts. Because one thing I have learned is that seems to be a difference of being able to clear an exam versus being able to talk about what auto-scaling does and the benefits. And having both as something that you're looking at and be able to articulate that, especially if you're doing presentations or you're talking to people about what you're learning, is a really good skill set to have. Thank you.
Yeah, exactly. I think that having the hands-on experience requires a span of time or a lot of time. It's not just it doesn't come and go in 1 day or 1 month. It requires a bit of time, a bit of consistency, and that can be the ultimate factor to master the cloud, and especially AWS, since it has many aspects to look at. And I think we have discussed this a bit last time, John, about how to be consistent and give it all every day. And I think you would be the best candidate to talk, or the best guest to talk about this, since you actually practice the cloud practically every day, and you need to stay always up to date in the AWS industry to stay in the same scope of the AWS scheme. Yeah. What is your insight or your sight on this?
Yeah. Okay. So, excuse me. Let me just do the 30-second intro so everybody knows who I am. So I've been in cloud for about as long as Karl has. We met at CloudReach, but I'd been doing it a little bit before I joined, but he was at CloudReach kind of slightly longer than I was. So we met there, and I've been in cloud for about the same length of time. Worked in financial services before that, doing some private cloud, some on-prem stuff, and all that kind of jazz. Cool. In terms of certs, I've passed 6 of them, including both professional certs. So yes, you're absolutely spot on that you don't get to that kind of level of having them. And I'm not a gold jacket holder, right? Let's make no bones about this. I hold probably half the available certs. There's the other ones look kind of intimidating to me, if I'm honest, because I'm not into machine learning or AI or big data or any of these things. But the way that you obtain even the basic certs and then more from that is just being immersed in the environment. And I appreciate that's somewhat harder if you're not doing it full time, because this is my full-time job, right? Almost every day, because I do have weekends and evenings and things. I'm not sitting here doing cloud all the time. But the other side of that is, as to echo what Czarina said, is university's great, certs are great. If you've got both of those together, that is absolutely a differentiator. But if you can't evidence that you've done some personal projects in the Cloud Resume Challenge, I'm so glad you brought that up, Czarina, because I would have done otherwise, because Forrest Brazil is amazing, and I'm so happy that he did that. That's great. It's absolutely something that's worth doing. And even if you can spend a little bit of time sort of every day, every couple of days, bit of weekend time, if you're not, studying and all the rest of it, just working on something like that really helps. Because again, to echo what Czarina said, you find people even at the mid-level to an extent, that have kind of gone cert, and I've never been not impressed by someone that's got 10 certificates. But then, have you ever done any of this in reality? Can you evidence that you know more than what the certificate has kind of shown? And that does ring true, because what you find is a number of the certs are really great at giving you this level of AWS knowledge, but a lot of what AWS does is open source stuff under the covers, right? I think of things like Elasticache or holding RDS for MySQL and these sorts of things. If you don't understand how some of these technologies work under the covers, then the cert is only going to take you so far. I realize I've wandered a little bit there, but the point, your point is absolutely correct, and this goes for both learning to pass the certs, because that is absolutely a thing. Learning to pass certs is a thing, and learning the technology under the covers. You need to be doing it regularly. I mean, I'm very guilty. When I was at university of I did no revision at all, absolutely, until 10 minutes before my exam. So I was absolutely the guiltiest person going for cramming, but that doesn't work to build foundational knowledge that kind of carries you through a career. So yeah, you do need to be doing it regularly, and that's both certs, that's work experience, that's job placements potentially, that's personal projects, and that's kind of the whole run of the thing.
So can I just on the point about personal projects, because you both raised it there. It's as someone who runs a business that hires engineers and developers, etc. That is one of the things that we always ask people about, because we want people to be passionate about tech, not just to want a job in our business. So we want to know what they're doing outside of work that is in tech. So one example, and the example I'm going to give you, I don't have one of these, so I probably shouldn't be giving the example, but I will give you the example anyway. What a lot of people do is have a personal website, and some of you may have that already. So, build a personal website, use AWS technologies to do it. You can do it all serverlessly in S3 or whatever, however you want to build it. You can run it on a small instance. And in doing that, you're learning the technology whilst you're building it. You're also giving yourself something to put on your CV, and you're giving yourself something to write content about, write a blog post about it, make a YouTube video about it or whatever. And then you can put that on your website as well. So, you can list out your certifications there, you can list your other qualifications and so on and so forth, and you can start to write content about what you're doing. And what you find once you start doing that, it almost becomes like a flywheel, because you're giving yourself more. If you're doing things, you're giving yourselves more things to talk about and more things to then evidence in that interview scenario. When somebody like me says to you, so what do you do? What do you do outside of work? Or what do you do outside of university? Or, what else have you got to talk about apart from these certifications? You've got something, to present. And these are not difficult things to do necessarily, but they're highly valued by people like me in the interview chair. And I'll give you an example of someone who's done that recently. He's an AWS hero. I don't know if any of you know what that means. We can talk about that if you like, but there's a guy called Johannes Koch, a German guy. He runs the user group in Karlsruhe, his local town in Germany, and he's recently just moved his whole website. He's just built a brand new website, in fact, and put all of his content on there, etc. And now, if you look at his LinkedIn profile, he's talking about his new website. He's asking for feedback on it, and so on and so forth. So that's the kind of, if you're thinking, well, what on earth could my personal project be? Start with something simple like a personal website. About you and about what you've, the projects you've been doing.
I'm just going to follow along with that, actually, because it's an excellent point about the blogging, about what you've made. So make a website, talk about the website, put your talking about the website on the website, write your own blog, that kind of thing. It's called learning in the open. And it's what people like community builders and AWS hero programs and all these sorts of things, they really, really value it. And employers do too, because what you're showing is that not only that you have learned how to do these things and you've built how to do these things and you know how to do all these things, you also know how to communicate what you know and how you've done it. And that's almost as important, to be honest.
I've just shared Johannes' LinkedIn profile, and I'm sure on there you'll find his new website that he's launched, and you'll find his YouTube channel, etc. And to give you an example of what good looks like, in this space, and obviously it's good because he's an AWS hero, and that is an invitation-only program. So,
yeah, exactly. And for this, I have actually a secret that I have been. It's like a tip that I've been using during my engineering cycle major, and I would like to share it with the other students and have your insights about it. At TICAP University or any engineering school in Tunisia, we have many projects during the semester or even a capstone or the end of the year project, and we have certain topics to build that project, like a website, sometimes a DevOps project, sometimes if the course or the curriculum is 21 hours, we just have to do some functionalities. And my secret is that I always try to push AWS services into my project. And actually, teachers ask, why are you using this? We did not ask you to do it, but it will be like a bonus. Going that extra mile is what makes you, gives you a step ahead of other candidates or other students. And that, in fact, what gave me some consistency or commitment to learn cloud and to learn about AWS more specifically. So to sum up, what I need to do is to actually search for projects that are related to AWS, and then build upon that actual word, cloud, AWS, like serverless, for example. And it can be like a snowball to build many projects. And for 3 years, I have never built or made a project without AWS. All projects are AWS based. And that's what actually gave me the extra mile. And I want your insights if that's actually a good approach, even for students that are still learning the fundamentals, and they can just host some static website on S3 and try some features and functionalities. You know, what are your insights on this, Czarina?
Yeah, definitely go for it. One of the links I've sent over, which is AWS Workshops, is a really good tool. Do you mind if I do a quick screen share?
Yeah.
I don't. Will it let you?
I'll have a look.
Yeah, and
no, it won't let me do. It's fine. It's only PowerPoint. But
Okay.
if you have a look at the link, which is for which is the second one I popped in, which is AWS Workshops. The nice thing about that is that you're able to have a look at what area you're interested in, whether it's serverless or whether it's databases. And inside there, you have step-by-step instructions. So it helps you and guides you. So you're not having to come up with new scenarios. I mentioned earlier, so this echoes what Karl was saying in regards to the personal website. The first link is a cloud resume challenge, and that is essentially where you're putting a website inside S3, inside an S3 bucket, as well as using HTML, CSS, and it allows you, it has some step-by-step instructions as well, but it's a really good way. But yeah, definitely hands-on makes a difference. But it's not just getting hands-on. It's also be talking about it. All the great things that John said about it is really important. One thing that I see a lot of people do is they do projects, they do things, but they don't communicate that. It's missing from their CV. They're not saying in the personal project space, I've done this, I've used S3, I used Docker, I've used, GitHub, and to outline that. So then in 6 months' time, when you're looking at a job interview or something like that, you're able to remember what technologies you used and what you actually did, but making sure that you document it and take those screenshots. Consider writing a blog post or even doing a video in order to talk about that as someone who hires. Being able to see how people communicate, as what was previously mentioned, is really, really important, especially depending on what different types of roles you're interested in. So definitely, get started. A great way to learn, so you don't just learn how to pass an exam.
Yeah, exactly. And actually, you're even giving more of a giving more secrets that I've been hiding, let's say, but no, I'm just joking. So this webinar is actually to share everything with you guys, students from Take Up University or any university studying computer science or IT in general. So what one of the questions that say that I hear a lot is what is the pathway that suits my major that I can pursue? And the answer to that question is actually there in one of the AWS certification pathways. I will drop the link in the chat right away. I hope this. I think I have a small problem with the conversation.
Okay. Czarina, are you dropping it in there? Or?
Yeah, I've got one. So is this the one that you're looking at, which is the AWS certification paths, which talks about the different roles that you can have,
exactly.
like solution architect, application, cloud data engineer?
I have dropped it in the other conversation. If you can drop it again, Karl, from the private conversation to this webinar, if it's possible.
Yes. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. And actually,
that's the same one Czarina's put in. It's the same document.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And actually, this lines up with every role that any student or even IT professionals want to pursue. And I wanted to talk about some roles and responsibilities, let's say, as AWS describes them. The most popular certification in the market and in engineering schools that students tend to certify is either the cloud practitioner, certified cloud practitioner, or the solution architect associate. So what actually is the importance of the certification? Many students actually say that I can get a role just with the cloud certified cloud practitioner, and some tend to go the extra mile and certify the solution architect, which can have a general aspect over multiple services all at once and can grant more, let's say, a bigger or wider perspective about the AWS world. So me personally, and other students as well, always ask themselves is it enough to actually pursue a career or get an internship or get your first, let's say, job or part-time job in the cloud industry.
Karl, you're on mute.
Talks away on mute.
Sorry, if you only have the cloud practitioner, or if you have followed one of these certification pathways.
Can you repeat, Karl?
Yeah, sorry, I was just trying to clarify the question from you. Are you saying is it enough to get a job by only achieving the AWS certified cloud practitioner?
Yeah, that's the first question, let's say, and let's try to demystify that for the students. Then we will go to the second part of the question, let's say.
So in my opinion, the cloud practitioner doesn't really demonstrate any technical capability whatsoever. It's a very generalist, it's a very generalist certification that doesn't really demonstrate any technical knowledge. It just kind of demonstrates that you understand what the different, terms are, what the different products are, and so on and so forth. It doesn't really go very deep at all. So if you are applying for a technical role, I would suggest that it's a good place to start because it gets you into the habit of learning finding where the learning resources are, what the exams look like, and everything else. But it's, it doesn't demonstrate any great level of technical capability. So I don't think there's any harm in starting there, but I certainly wouldn't finish there. That would be my opinion.
It depends. I'm going to follow on from that. It depends what you're going for. As you say, I know we're talking to students from an engineering university, so that point is incredibly valid. But if you are looking at project management, project support office, those sorts of things, then you don't necessarily need to be overtly technical. And just being able to speak the same language as engineers is very helpful, because when someone like me starts coming up and saying, well, these instances are all ephemeral, so they're going to go away again. If you need to know what that means, how that works, how that hangs together. So you don't necessarily need to go overtly technical, but yes, from an engineering side of things, you absolutely do. And honestly, stopping at SA Associate is not enough either, because it says the bloke that doesn't really value certificates personally, because I've spent a lot of time in consulting businesses and in product businesses. And as Karl says, in product businesses, once you've done your time, as it were, once you've demonstrated competence through experience, you don't need the certificates. But on the consulting side of things, and to get in the door in the first place, they're incredibly helpful. And if me as a lead engineer for either a consulting business or a product business pops up and says, hi, I've got SA Associate and that's it, and the next guy's got Solutions Architect Pro and DevOps this, that, and the other, I'm not going to win in that particular competition. So each certificate by itself is useful to a point, but they, to an extent, build on top of each other. And that's why, as well, if you look at the certification pathways, they recommend going from one to the next, to the next, to the next. And once you start digging into it a little bit, and it doesn't say this on this document, but some of the certificates will automatically renew certificates that sit beneath them within the pathways. So once you pass CCP, if you then pass SA Associate, CCP gets renewed for you as well, because they build on top of each other. And to an extent, I think that's a hangover from when you had to pass exams in a certain order. You don't have to do them in order anymore. You used to have to. And that's kind of a relic of that, I think. But yeah, from an engineering perspective, even SA Associate by itself is better than not having it, absolutely. But I would certainly start looking at things like the Dev Associate one as well, because that covers different services, and it's good for demonstrating just breadth of knowledge.
Yeah, exactly. And certain students and even IT professionals talk about being either a generalist or being a specialist in different aspects and different fields in the cloud computing industry, and especially in AWS. And many say that having the solution architect associate is the first step to being, let's say, a generalist. And if you go even deeper and have the deep dive, as mentioned, even in the AWS certification pathway, it's document, it says you can do a deep dive. That means you specialize and you have more expertise in that specific field, role, or responsibility, let's say. And to be fair to some of the students that have actually registered and couldn't attend to the meeting, I have some questions from the forms that they filled in, and one of the students actually said how to achieve the gold jacket, or the 12 or 13, let's say, certifications. Actually, we have more if we count the deprecated, but we are talking about from now on. So we actually have, I think, 12 or 13 certifications that are actually live. And from a student perspective, let's focus on that. The question has been, the question came from students and not an IT professional. So what are your insights about this? Let's start with Czarina.
I think it's interesting because when you're after any goal or any target, whether it's just one exam or however many there are in order to get a golden jacket, it's got to be about what's your driver, what's motivating you to keep going on for that. yeah, the golden jacket thing is a wonderful thing, but it's also making sure that you're doing it for the right reasons. I think there was a conversation thread about maybe certified cloud practitioner being seen as a foundational level, and I see it as a confidence booster exam. And whilst you're taking the time to study towards that, what I normally see is that the AWS Solutions Architect Associate being the next one, because that's the next level. And from there, people start to specialize and differentiate depending on what area they're quite keen on. But yeah, I don't think there's many AWS Golden Jacket holders at all. But it'll be interesting to hear Karl and John. Especially John, you've got more. You're almost halfway there, aren't you?
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah. Once you're
I
in
think
that
there's
world,
about
it's best to stay because you've done all that work, and they
yeah.
tend to
So
overlap.
in terms of the specifics, I think there's 300 or so gold jacket holders globally. It's not a big number at all. Okay, it's a very, very small number. In order to achieve the gold jacket, it's gotten a little bit easier than it used to, but it's a lot of work because certificates expire. They only last for a certain length of time, and yes, you renew them, and it helps that certain certificates renew other certificates. So I hold 6, but I only need to take 2 of them to keep all 6 active because of kind of how the inheritance of them works. But in order to achieve the gold jacket, to answer the question kind of directly, you need to pass all active AWS certificates. So the deprecated ones don't count. Anything that's active does count. Anything that's in beta doesn't count. But if you pass it anyway, then gravy. It's a good thing to do. And you need to be part of one of a number of community schemes and then apply for the jacket. Historically, it was only, I think, ambassadors that could get it, but it's been opened up a little bit since then. But yes, so you have to pass all the certificates, and you have to be a member of a community scheme. So that's something like Community Builder or lead a user group or be an ambassador. I don't know if Hero counts specifically, but it might very well do. So that's kind of the specifics. It's hard work, though, because all of the exams have a 3-year expiry. So I did my DevOps Pro 2 years ago now, so I need to renew that next year. And that's kind of the thing that you're struggling against, because all of the other specialty exams, because there's 6 or so specialty exams, don't have any of this inheritance applied to them. So once you take it, it lasts for 3 years, and then you've got to take another 12 in that 3-year period to qualify for it. So it's hard work. I've never been, we keep saying this, I've never not been impressed by a gold jacket holder and by someone that's passed all the exams. I've never not been impressed by it because it's a lot of work. But you can't walk into a job interview and say, I hold a gold jacket. It's okay. Next.
Yeah, exactly. And for that, I think it's really astonishing goal to have. Or the actual question is, do you have the commitment and consistency to achieve that goal? And hopefully the student that submitted that question can either hear us or watch the recording after, and that would be a great motivation to see a student go from 0 certifications to actually achieve the golden jacket in a span of let's say 3 years, if we actually talk, or 3 or 4 years, if we actually talk about non-renewal policy for certain certifications. Actually, I'm going to pass through some of the questions one by one, and then give a small section for Q&A for the students that are actually with us in the meeting. There are 3 questions from 3 students, and they're actually the same question, and I'm impressed or astonished how they submitted the same question, even that they don't know each other, they don't have the same major. And the question is how to identify the best choice or the best certification for a specific career that aligns with the market. And we are talking about the market in 2025 of the cloud industry. So to sum up, what is the best certification, the best pathway, or how to identify the pathway even though they are not the same major, they got the same question. So they want some solid insights about how to identify their pathways. So what do you think is the best way, tool, or logical approach or perspective to have to achieve this? Yeah.
I can go. So I think we a little bit earlier on in the chat, I think it was Czarina shared the pathway document that you also tried to share, Tangara, but it lists a whole bunch of different roles in there and the different certification pathways that you should follow. So I've got it open here. The roles that it talks about are solutions architect, application architect, cloud data engineer, software development engineer, systems administrator, cloud engineer, test engineer, cloud DevOps engineer, DevSecOps engineer, etc. I'm not going to read all that because I have a couple of pages of it, but it covers a lot of the different role types in this document. And it gives you the specific AWS certifications that would be relevant to that role type. So I guess it depends what specific role these people might be looking for. And it doesn't matter that they're not all the same major, because it goes through, it actually categorizes each of those roles into different categories as well. So, categories like architecture, data and analytics, development, operations, DevOps, security, etc. So depending on which direction you want to go, maybe you don't know yet what roles you want to apply for, right? But one thing to do would be to look at what roles are available and potentially align your education with that, because you don't necessarily want to be studying for network engineering, for example, if there are no network engineer roles available, or if there are fewer network engineer roles available. Obviously, we're in the middle of a hype cycle right now for AI and machine learning. That's what everybody is talking about, but potentially that's what everybody else is going to be doing as well. So, my advice would be to look at the market yourselves and, based on what you're studying, have a look at what types of roles are available and then tune your chosen pathway towards that, because there's no point becoming certified and qualified in something where there is no opportunity. But also don't necessarily follow the hype, because if everybody's following the hype, then that's potentially going to leave a bit of a vacuum for the more traditional roles that people are going to need to fill.
I'm going to follow on from that slightly, and I'm going to try very hard not to be contrarian, because I agree with a good chunk of that. But for me, it's not necessarily about what certificates and what training and this, that, the other I should go for a particular job, for a particular career, for a particular whatever. If you want to work in tech, my degree was in business analysis, and I'm an engineer now, so it's related, but I've kind of deviated a long way from there. The thing you really need to get good at working in tech is learning how to learn, because working in tech, you are signing up to be a lifelong student. You're signing up to learn new things forever. So the answer to what certificates and training should I do for this particular job is, what ones can you concentrate on, focus on, what do you find interesting, and try and niche yourself into that area. Don't follow the hype cycle, because everyone wants to be a prompt engineer, an ML data, whatever. And sure, I don't think those things are going away in the near future, but the fundamentals are always going to be under the covers, and you will always need to learn the new thing, right? Because hype cycles in tech last an ever decreasing length of time. We've been in the AI boom for a year and a half now, I think, and it's not going away, but you need to learn how to learn. So that's, I think, more important than picking a particular certification path.
Yeah, I really like that. Just to add a little bit to that, is that the role that you start off with is not going to be the same role that you're going to end up with. We spoke about my career history. It's gone from lots of different things throughout that, including working in financial services back in the day. But the most important thing is trying to find out what you like, and until you have that exposure, you don't know what the key things are. So I'm an architect, so I love communication, whether it's during a wonderful diagram to doing presentations and talking through different solutions and different options for people. So I know that I'm very much more front of house in terms of the tech sphere, is where I naturally gravitate to, and there's a plethora of different roles for that, as well as things that are more suited to what people really enjoy. So I think different certification pathways, that link is great to have a look at that, but get hands-on, have a look at the different aspects. It could be the fact that you love databases or you love serverless. It's exposure to lots of different things, but knowing the fact that just because you start off on a set journey doesn't mean that that's it. There's no changes, because yeah, the world of tech is forever changing. Lifelong student, I like that. That is very much how it is. It's one of the things I love about tech, but also sometimes find the most frustrating. Love learning, but I don't like
very
knowing
interesting
that
place to be.
out that I don't know
It's a
about.
very interesting place to be, because once you've learned how to be a plasterer, you know how to put plaster on a wall, versus tech is constantly changing. It really genuinely is. And again, to echo the point around what you start in isn't what you're going to end in. As I say, my degree was in business analysis. I then did several years as a test analyst, and then was various other things that have led into DevOps and then engineering. And whilst I'm a lead engineer, because I work for a small firm, I'm an architect too, and I do front of house stuff, and I do pre-sales. And so what your job title is now versus in 5 years time versus 10 years time, it's not going to be the same. And what you're doing from company to company under the same job won't necessarily be the same either.
Yeah, exactly. And to give the most odd like academic follow-up or career, I have actually pursued a mathematics physics pre-engineering. I see that, John. Yeah, I was pursuing my mathematics and physics pre-engineering course, which we use or pursue in Tunisia to actually get to different engineering schools through, let's say, a national exam, and then you actually choose what school that is the most appropriate, and you get what you practically you get one of the choices. You can get the first one, the second one, and to narrow the choices, what I've done, and this actually applies to what I've done in the AWS certification pathways document in the first years of the engineering cycle. And this is the best tip for juniors and for the first year students. Give yourself a broad choice. Don't try to choose the pathway right away. Just try different things and explore and experience many pathways. You can actually just try the course of the solution architect, try the course of the networking from Cisco, try everything and see where you can land. And for more like seniors or undergraduates, you can actually look at the AWS certification pathways, but as our guests say, it's not just the secret or the glorious document that can decide your future. You can actually explore and do the best you can through many courses and many pathways that doesn't need to be related to AWS. But if you want to pursue a career in AWS, try to explore many pathways to reach the goal or the role that suits you the best through what you have already experienced, through workshops, through hands-on experience, real-life scenarios, projects. And projects, of course, has to be AWS-based, as I say, to actually give the best output that you want to achieve. Yeah. So this is my insight about this. Let's move on to the Q&A section of our attendees. And
can I just can we quickly just touch on Tangara, the community program? We've spoken about, obviously Czarina's proudly sporting her community builder background. John is proudly sporting his community builder t-shirt, and I've got my community builder drink vessel behind me. There are a bunch of community programs which, if you're not aware of them already, you can potentially get involved in. They don't cost anything, and they have benefits coming back for you. Oops, sorry, I didn't realize I had those on. Coming back to you as an individual. So I'll talk quickly about the Community Builder program. John, maybe you can talk about user groups. There is a user group Tunisia, which people may or may not be aware of. So the Community Builder program is basically a program that anybody can apply for once a year. It's for people who generate content about AWS. So cast your mind back to us talking about personal projects, maybe building your own personal website in AWS, etc., and writing about it, blogging about it, making videos about it, etc. That's the sort of content that can be used to apply to the Community Builder program. I think Czarina maybe is going to share the link. If not, I will share the application link. You can only apply once a year. I think it's in January, the application cycle. So you still have time. It's June now. You've got 6 months to put some content together. You need 2 pieces of content to submit with your application. So that could be a blog post, could be a YouTube video, could be, whatever. It could be a talk that you've done. It could be like this, for example, would be a piece of content talking about AWS. So you can submit your 2 pieces of content. There's a couple of questions about why would you like to be in the program? What do you think you're going to get out of being in the program? And if you're accepted, you become a part of a global community of about 3,000 to 4,000 people. I think there are about 3,000 or 4,000 community builders globally right now. You get access to a Slack workspace where you can talk to all those other people. You can also talk directly to people at AWS. They share insights about product roadmaps and so on and so forth. You also get some nice swag like the cup, like the t-shirt, etc. for joining. But you also get a free 12-month Cloud Academy subscription. So if you're learning, you can get access to some great training libraries for free. And there's not just AWS in Cloud Academy, there's other technologies in there as well. You also get $500 worth of AWS credits. So if you're thinking, I'd love to do some personal projects, but I'm going to exceed the free tier or whatever, and I don't have money to build in AWS, they give you $500 of credits to build whatever you want in AWS each year if you get renewed into the program. You get discount on reInvent tickets. There's also a program called the All Builders Welcome Grant. So if you are from an underprivileged background or an underrepresented minority in tech, you can apply for the All Builders Welcome Grant, which will get you free tickets to reInvent in Las Vegas, free travel and accommodation. So if you're thinking, I could never afford to go to Las Vegas, I'm a student. If you join the program, if you apply for the All Builders Welcome Grant, you never know. People from all over the world are being fully funded to go to reInvent in Vegas, which is their annual conference, 60,000 people. It's enormous. John and I went last year. We had to pay, but it's fantastic. So there are these opportunities to get involved. And all you've got to do is generate some content about what you've been doing in AWS. So that's the Community Builder program that we're all a part of. And Czarina has shared both the link about that and about the All Builders Welcome Grant. John, maybe you want to talk about user groups for a bit?
Yeah, sure. So in addition to being a community builder, Karl and I are both user group leads, and Czarina runs a different cloud group, but not an officially syndicated one. The user group program, as we said earlier, I think because we spoke that Johannes is also a user group leader as well as being a hero, is another global community within AWS. So this is one of those communities that's full of other sub-communities. And what user group leads do is they put on events, and they do this sort of thing as well. But primarily it's about organizing events and tech talks where people will come in, they'll do a presentation. You tend to get, beers and pizzas and catering and soft drinks and all the kind of the rest of it. And you learn a new thing, do some networking, meet with some new people, and kind of have a great time of it. Lots of them put on workshops as well. I know we certainly do where we are, but it's probably a bit of a trek for your students to come over to Brighton for a workshop in on AWS. But there is a Tunisian user group as well, so that's yeah. They're a global community. They get similar benefits to the Community Builder program as well. Not quite the same level, but you do get some benefits on top. Things like certification vouchers, which is quite nice. If you're into doing lots of certs, you can do one per year for free, which is very nice. I certainly take advantage of that. And again, discounts on things like reInvent and access to a different Slack workspace and access to people within AWS. And it's being both a community builder and a user group lead has done really good things for me just personally, because before I did that, I was not doing this sort of thing, and now I do. And now I've spoken at the London Summit, which is the second biggest event on the AWS calendar, and it's because of being in these sorts of programs. So that's CBs, that's UGs. I think, Czarina, you might have a thing on cloud captains. I don't want to put you on the spot though.
Well, I know it was something that we were speaking about, whether or not the university is signed up, but it's something that may be explored at the moment for there. What I did think would be really good to speak about was just reinforcing randomly, because we've just had Reinforce, and that happened the other week, which is the AWS event over in Philadelphia, which is very much more security focused. But those all Builder welcome grants are a really, really great opportunity. The one for AWS reInvent in 2025 is open now, and that's one of the links I put in. They also do an All Builders grant for Reinforce. A lot of for the past 3 years, my mentees that I've had or anything like that have won those grants. But it's eligible for people who are in the first 5 years of their career is the main thing as well. So a really good opportunity to get involved. You get flights, you get a lot paid for you, including accommodation, in order to attend those events. One of the things I put on the link is to the AWS Cloud community. So inside the AWS community, you'll see there's lots of different areas. So we've spoken about AWS user groups. We've spoken about AWS Heroes, as well as AWS Community Builder Program. The information about the Cloud Club, essentially, just so people are aware, you've got Cloud Clubs, I'm saying that wrong, Cloud Clubs, which is a newer community program inside AWS. And essentially what they're after is student leaders who can help guide and manage the campus cloud clubs with support from the AWS community team. It's the great thing about that is that you have a nominated person has that, and you get all the backing and support. There's some great things which the cloud captain can unlock in terms of benefits for the community once that in place. Things like AWS credits, certification exam, vouchers, items such as branded materials. You've probably seen the merch that we've all got lurking around. You've got a similar thing for cloud clubs, but it sounds like that that's something which is in flight, because they open up the cycle applications for on an ad hoc basis based on different areas. I think the next one's going to open in August 2025. And have you got an application coming to see whether or not your uni can look at joining that at the moment? That's in flight, isn't it?
Yeah, I think in August,
Yeah. One thing to know as well is that you have lots of other forums available. It's just about reaching out and developing those. You have opportunities to publish, whether it's in Dev2 or whether or not it's within your skill builder ID inside. So there's lots of opportunities to get involved, and potentially if you want to look towards the AWS Community Builders program to apply for that. If you learn in the open and all that stuff, that'll be a really good way of looking at getting there.
So thank you. We've had a couple of questions come in on the chat, so I've been trying to answer those, but I think there's one for you there, John, from Salma, who's asked, as a beginner, which AWS services can I use to implement a basic DevSecOps pipeline, and how should I get started? That sounds like a good one for you to get your teeth stuck into, John.
There's no such thing as a basic DevSecOps pipeline. There's no such thing. It doesn't exist. The pipelines are the most over-engineered things in creation. They really, really are. So, to be fair to the question, it depends on your outcomes, because DevSecOps is one of those, it's kind of a buzzword. It sort of doesn't mean anything. It's a combination of development, security, and operations. And what we're basically talking about here is the people that run the code, secure the code, worry about whether people can do things that they're meant to, and operate the product at the end of it is kind of all the same team. Okay. So in terms of what a pipeline that's doing that sort of thing is doing. So a DevSecOps pipeline, in this case, to me, speaking as someone that builds these sorts of things for a living, it's looking at, does the code build? If it's a built or interpolated language, does it all kind of hang together? Do you run unit tests against it so it sort of passes its basic checks? Is it securely coded? And you're looking at secure code scanners for things like that. and then deploy it automatically into your environment. Those are kind of the things that you're looking at. In terms of AWS services for that, you're looking at the Code Suite tools and Inspector to an extent. So the Code Suite tools are Code Build, Code Pipeline in these cases, Code Deploy for your deployments as well, and then AWS Inspector has very, very recently released a code scanning feature, and up until I think a week and a half ago, you'd have to go to a third party for that sort of functionality. But that's very much in the DevTools space. To tie it back to the community program, there is a DevTools section within Community Builders. Johannes Koch, who we've name dropped several times, is a DevTools hero. So go follow him on YouTube and you will probably get the answers that you're after better than I can answer it.
Yeah, exactly. I think you have actually gave the appropriate direct approach to answer that question. There is no basic or fundamental aspect to learning DevOps. It has to be the hard way. Let's say it requires a lot of work, but once you achieve that level of knowledge and that level of expertise, you're going to be as good as John, I think.
There's a saying that I like. Sorry to cut you off. There's a saying I like that there's no such thing as a junior DevOps engineer.
Yeah, exactly. And actually, we have a question that caught my attention in the forums, and the same student actually sent the question again, which is Ulfa. It said that as a biomedical engineering student specializing in AI and healthcare technologies, could you recommend the best AWS certifications or tools that would align with future career in smart hospitals, medical imaging, or digital twins? Then she actually sent 2 pathways. And just to follow up on this question,
I sent the pathways, but I missed the tools part. So it's potentially a follow-up answer on the tools part.
Yeah, I'm probably not qualified to talk about that because I'm not a medic by any degree. In terms of things like biomedical engineering, I did biology at college. That's about as far as I went, I'm afraid. But again, you'd be looking at things like AI services, AI tools, machine vision to an extent as well. Because if you're at that kind of, and also high performance compute to an extent, because if you're sitting at that kind of interplay between health tech data, which is huge data sets, and tech more generally, and AI and ML, that's kind of where that space sits at the moment. So the pathways that Karl sent through are spot on, they're correct. In terms of tooling, again, it's anything in the AI ML space, and extend that to things like machine vision as well, and potentially robotics if you're that way inclined.
And things like IoT, and AWS even have a service called IoT Twin Maker. So IoT as in Internet of Things, because smart anything requires things to collect data and send it back from the things to the database, which of course is where the analytics happens. So it depends whether you're going to be at the back end doing the data science, etc., or at the front end collecting the data from the smart things. So there are tools like IoT and IoT Twin Maker. So I have IoT Twin Maker open in my browser, so I'll share the link to that in the chat as well. So that might be something worth looking at. That's Twin Maker, but there are other IoT services as well. So I'll send a link to that sort of high level page on AWS IoT, which I think would be relevant in that kind of smart hospital scenario. I'm not aware of any certifications that cover IoT though. Are you? Do you know of any, John or Czarina?
Not
No, don't think so.
specifically. It would fall inside those categories. However, what I put to pop into the chat, just because healthcare and that industry is an interest area for myself. I've dropped in some healthcare case studies by Amazon, And what you have there is some really, really great customer success stories about the use cases inside that key industry. So it would be worth having a look at what they've used. So for example, a lot of people use a lot of Bedrock agents and lots of different tools. So you can have a look at those different scenarios and then potentially align what you're learning about to that area.
And I've just shared an AI result in the chat about certifications covering IoT, but don't, please validate it because it was generated by AI. So it may be wrong. So,
Yes.
any other questions, Tangara?
Yeah, actually, I wanted to mention something that has been crucial for me personally. Some students actually struggle to get hands-on experience due to the difficulties to actually have an account, and they don't have the appropriate amount of money to run some like projects and let's say services. And one of the solutions that I have found is the Builder's Quest, AWS Builder's Quest, issued by the AWS Solution Architect community, which is we can actually do or participate in immersion days, and these immersion days actually provides the appropriate configuration for a 24 hours workshop. And actually that can be let's say a short time to do the workshop, but that actually makes the let's say provides the motivation to the student or the participant to do the things at time and to, let's say, be committed to finish the workshop at time and learn from events like immersion days for different services, for different levels and different, let's say, aspects of the or fields of the cloud computing or the AWS world, like from serverless to specific to storage like S3, from microservices to EI, etc. And that can be a great tool to level up and to get some hands-on experience in your pocket. Yeah, if there is any like hands-on like tips or tools that can be beneficial for students, I would like your insights about it. Yeah.
I think Czarina already mentioned the lab. She can probably talk a little bit more about that. But one thing I would say is I mentioned or John mentioned the user groups. We have run some interactive sessions at our user groups, and I did share the link to the Tunis user group earlier. It may well be worth having a chat with the organisers of the Tunis user group to see if they can run some interactive sessions there for you, because some of these kind of labs or what are they called, the jams, the gamified learning experiences, are now being packaged up for the community to be run by the community at things like user group events. So if you're not already engaged with your local user group, engage with your local user group, speak to the organizers and ask them, tell them you want to run some interactive sessions, because those things are available. And if they don't know about that, they can find out via the global user group leaders Slack workspace from other user group leaders like us who have run interactive events where you can get hands-on with AWS technologies, and they're completely free of charge. You don't need to pay anything for that.
Yeah, exactly.
You also use AWS Educate as well, don't you?
Yeah, I think that is actually exclusive to the students of ATECAP University. So if we talk in broader sense to every student in engineering school, you can use AWS Educate. It's totally free. You can sign up and do as many workshops. There are a limited number, but they're very beneficial, and you can automatically sign up for the emerging talent community, which can provide certain benefits from learning and from gaining some rewards like vouchers, like the ETC Emerging Talent Community badge, to showcase that you are committed, you are consistent in learning and having the necessary tools, or having necessary labs and projects that can scale up or give you the extra step, extra mile in your career. Yeah. So if there are any questions in this chat, I think we have answered most of the questions.
I think we've answered all the questions so far. Shared a lot of content in the chat links.
All right. So I think we have actually cracked the code, cracked the cloud code today, and made a good session, great session for different students at TechUp University, listeners even from other universities, and that makes it a great way to demystify the AWS or the cloud computing world in general, or industry in general. So big thanks to our guests, Karl Robinson, John and Czarina, all community builders. Thank you for your participation and for giving your insights for this community and giving back to the community. That is actually exceptional, and that wraps us our okay. Well, we have now thanks from the students in the chat, and that wraps us our meeting for today, webinar for today. If you have any questions, we'll be here for more 5 minutes or 10 minutes.
If anyone's got any questions, yeah, I'm happy to stay on for a little bit longer. But
yeah,
I'm not seeing any.
All right.
What I would say is I'm quite happy to be, reached out to on LinkedIn. I will just pop my LinkedIn on, and if you've got questions after, because I'm afraid I can't hang around, feel free to just ping me on LinkedIn, reach out. I'm usually pretty responsive on there. Don't tell my boss, but I'm quite happy to answer any questions that you've got after the fact, if you come up with any later today or whatever.
Likewise, I think all of our LinkedIns are actually on the webinar page, the invitations. I popped them into the speaker profiles.
I'll try and dig mine out.
Yeah. No, it's on the speaker. It's on our speaker profiles on the webinar sign up page. So if anybody wants to connect to us or message us, then yeah, please feel free.
Also, you can actually follow up on the latest news of AWS by listening to the podcast of Logicata.
Yeah.
Logicata.
I shared the link.
Yeah.
I shared the link in the chat. Yeah, of your YouTube channel.
Share
so
it again.
That weekly.
Yeah. For me personally, I can share my my experience with Logicata. I actually was striving to listen to something related to AWS about the latest news, and Karl reached out and I told him my feedback. They are doing a great work catching up to the latest news, and the consistency is just incredible. And to all the AWS community builders actually giving back to the community, you're doing a very great job at representing yourselves, branding yourself, representing the AWS community. So kudos to all of you. Yeah.
Thanks, Tangara.
Thank you.
Okay, well, I'm not seeing any other questions coming in, so I guess we can wrap up the meeting there. And yeah.
So I think that wraps up the meeting for now. So it's great to have you all here, students, guests. It was great to share this this webinar with you, and we'll see you all in the next occasion. See you.
Thanks, Tangara. Thanks for setting this up.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.